Death truly made no exceptions within
What
SCP-2935.
the heck? I guess no one's immortal with this SCP around. Like, yo, to be honest, any SCP that's immortal or whatever that can't die, obviously that's cap now because this is a thing. Yo.
Later, in the void.
What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Savvy, and welcome back to the Savvy Show. And in today's episode, we got a really interesting SCP because this SCP was brought up in the end of the world scenario explain video that I did a few days back. And supposedly this SCP was able to defeat the indestructible creature, and not just defeat, kill it, wipe it out of existence, like Dunzo, pushing daisies, guys. So this SCP is 2935. Oh, death. Yo, it's about time for us to get into this, man, because I know a few of you guys want me to react to this SCP after the end of the world scenario reaction. So, yo, after hearing what I heard about this SCP within that reaction, I needed to dive deep, bro. This is going to be a good one. I already know it's going to be a good one. It's from SCP Explained Stories and Animation. They do a really good job talking about the SCP's ability along with a good story, so I'm excited for this one, guys. So with that being said, if you do enjoy the reaction along the way, it would be awesome if you could leave a like and also turn on post notifications so you do not miss an upload. And obviously, join the family, smash that red button if you're not already part of it. Mind you, if you're already part of it, awesome. Buckle in, we're about to go on a fun ride. And also, if you are new, I make reactions, SCP reactions daily for you guys. So, if you like my reaction style, you enjoy SCP content, this is going to be the best channel to tune in and plug in. Yo, I'm not capping. It's facts. So turn up and join the fam. Alrighty, so with that all out the way, without any further ado, let's get this show started. Alrighty, SCP-2935. Oh, death. Yo, let's see how scary this SCP really is.
There are some things human beings aren't meant to know, and it's the sworn duty of the SCP Foundation to discover and contain such information.
Got that right.
Sometimes knowledge is discovered that shakes even the Foundation itself to its very core. One such discovery occurred on April 28, 2016. That night, SCP-2935 made itself known to the Foundation personnel.
2016?
To this day, the exact nature of SCP-2935 is a mystery that even the Foundation's brightest minds can't completely understand.
Till this day, it's still a mystery? So that means that this SCP is still out and about doing God knows what. It's not captured or contained or anything. Yo, what class is this SCP?
Everything we know about SCP-2935 today comes from 3 doomed missions to the anomalous zone's interior. This is the story of those infamous expeditions.
Okay.
The nightmare began around 5 a.m. when SCP Foundation Site 81 in Bloomingdale, Indiana, intercepted a distorted radio signal. Communications personnel at the site traced this strange signal back to the unincorporated area of Joppa, Indiana, near U.S. Interstate 70.
Joppa?
As is Foundation policy, a team of field agents were dispatched
to the
location in order to determine what they were dealing with. However, rather than finding anything that could logically produce such a signal, they instead discovered a long-abandoned cemetery. The most recent death on any of the tombstones was recorded as being over 100 years ago, all the way back in 1908. On further investigation, the Foundation discovered an unmapped limestone cave opening beneath the cemetery. And when they sent a drone into the depths of the cave, it appeared to quickly exit out the other side of the cave. But something wasn't right. The area that the drone was observing appeared consistent with the landscape from which it entered, but now it looked somehow grayer.
Yo, so did that drone actually go to another dimension that is not what was prior to what we saw? Like, is he in another dimension now where literally everything died out and that's why it looks all gloomy and dark compared to looking bright and green? Yo, I thought this SCP was an actual, like, you know, entity. It seems like it's an area, maybe. I don't know. This is just more interesting than I thought.
It lacked the color of life of the place it just come from. The grass was dead. There were no trees, no shrubs, no animals or birds in the sky. They weren't looking at our world. They were looking at a strange reflection of our world on the other side of the cave.
A reflection?
In fact, it wasn't a cave at all. It was a passageway between 2 dimensions. It was SCP-2935. Just then, they were able to unscramble the distorted transmission they'd been receiving. It went as follows. This is an automated emergency broadcast from the SCP Foundation and your national government. One or more of our sites is experiencing a communication breakdown, likely due to a containment breach of unknown magnitude.
Okay.
All citizens are ordered to stay in their homes as containment teams work to secure the breach. This message will broadcast from April 20th, 2016 until At that point, the message would cut and repeat, as it had for 8 straight days.
What the heck?
The message source, Site-81, but not this Site-81. The SCP Foundation was receiving an emergency distress signal from themselves in another dimension, a bizarre event that even the Foundation had never experienced before.
What the heck?
Field agents were terrified by the implications of what they just heard and contacted Site-81 Command to request additional units. The Foundation wished to fully understand this anomaly as quickly as possible due to the potential threat it could pose toward the Foundation.
We don't even know what this anomaly is. Is it like an area, or is it a being like controlling that one area? Or is it just like another dimension where everything died?
So they dispatched Mobile Task Force Epsilon 13, codenamed Manifest Destiny, to perform the first of 3 manned missions into the heart of the anomalous zone.
Okay.
The first exploratory mission into SCP-2935 was codenamed Gauntlet, and consisted of a 4-man team fitted with full hazmat suits and direct video and audio links to Mission Command. The team was led by a field operative known only as Agent Juno. His subordinates were Agents Kale, Devon, and Underwood. Their directive was to gather samples and survey the area positioned directly around the insertion point, meaning the other cave mouth of SCP-2935.
Okay.
The mission only lasted about an hour, but what they saw in there would stay with these men for the rest of their lives. After a 15-minute trek through the cave, Manifest Destiny arrived in the mirror dimension, where they were struck by the eerie silence of a place that seemed identical and yet so different from their home dimension.
So it's just another portal where there was a world that, you know, was their world but got blown up or just got annihilated, and it's a wasteland. Is that basically just it? Is that all?
The first observation they made was the total absence of all living vegetation. Trees, grass, weeds, everything. It was all dead. On orders from their superiors back in the original dimension, that we'll refer to from here on as Dimension Prime, Manifest Destiny headed deeper into the mirror dimension of SCP-2935. They traveled 2 kilometers without detecting a single sign of plant or animal life.
One, like, yo, when I actually got into this reality, if I was one of the members of this team, I'll make sure I'm able to, like, come back, you know? Like, why don't you, like, throw something in and, like, pull it back and see if it'll come back okay? Like, you guys just hopped in without knowing if you guys would come back in one piece. I don't know, that's just me.
Not even insects. Eventually, they came upon a farmhouse with 2 cars parked outside. With authorization from Command, Manifest Destiny breached the house and headed inside. Agent Kale confirmed that there was still power flowing to the building, as the lighting appeared to work just fine. But they came upon a horrifying discovery in the house's dining room. 3 adult corpses, 2 female, 1 male, were seated at the table. A 4th corpse, that of a male child, was sprawled out on the ground nearby.
I know they said corpse, but you never know with like SCP stuff. They could be a corpse but still be alive, yo. Like,
as if the death of what looked to be an entire family wasn't awful enough, the Manifest Destiny team noticed a number of other alarming details. There were no signs of decomposition on the bodies, nor did there appear to be any obvious cause of death. The family's last meal was still on the table: chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. While the food looked cold and stale, there was no evidence of rot or spoiling. The team found an open newspaper dated April 19th, 2016, illustrating that the family may have died a full 8 days before the discovery. In Dimension Prime, decay would already be very well underway by that point, yet here there wasn't even a smell.
What is going on?
Everything was just covered in a thin layer of dust. Command requested that Manifest Destiny collect samples of the food, as well as hair, skin, and fluids from the corpses for further study. Small electronics like smartphones were also taken from the bodies. Agent Devon turned on the television in the living room and found that while most stations were now running test signals, the shopping channel was still live. Well, the feed was live at least. Both hosts sat in front of the cameras dead, but perfectly preserved. The date on the screen read April 28th, 2016.
Yo, is this SCP actually like taking their souls or something like that? Where like science can't really find out why they died because, you know, you can't really measure a soul in someone's body. Yo, this is getting kind of crazy.
Suggesting that the times of Dimension Prime and Mirror Dimension were exactly the same. In fact, everything seemed the same. The only difference between the 2 dimensions being that some kind of mysterious apocalyptic event had occurred in the last 8 days in SCP-2935's Mirror Dimension.
Well, how did they die?
What happened or how remained a mystery. When Manifest Destiny exited the farmhouse, they once again remarked on the lack of all signs of life around them. At this point, the team returned to the insertion point of SCP-2935. But but were instructed to remain in the mirror dimension while additional units joined them inside.
That's too
Manifest
risky.
Destiny swelled to 16 members, with the notable addition of Agent Roy as the new commanding field officer. The team split into 2 groups of 8, and Agent Roy and his men infiltrated the mirror dimension Site-81, while Agent Juno's detachment attempted to access the base's off-site deep storage servers.
Okay.
This second expedition was codenamed Overland, and led the Foundation's field agents even deeper into the terrifying mystery of SCP-2935. Accessing the site was easy for Roy's detachment. It seemed there were relatively few cars on the road at the time of the mysterious extinction event. In the distance, fire still smoldered in the wreckage of planes that looked to have just dropped out of the sky.
How are these people dying, guys? I really want to know what method this SCP is using to kill these humans. Or humanity in this reality.
Agent Roy and his team, like all SCP Foundation personnel, were fitted with vitals trackers, and they assumed that the distress signal that started this whole thing could have been triggered by the deaths of every member of the Foundation at once in the mirror universe. Once inside Site-81, they realized that the assumption was probably right.
Wow.
Going door to door in the administrative wing, they found the perfectly preserved corpses of everyone they knew to be stationed there in Dimension Prime. People who were without a doubt still alive in their universe. Samples from the corpses that the Foundation would later study even confirmed the reason that the bodies were perfectly preserved. The corpses had experienced complete and sudden death on a cellular level, and even the bacteria that would typically take part in the decomposition process had died with it.
What?
In SCP-2935, death was total and absolute, across all types of life forms. As Agent Roy's team ventured further into the bowels of Site-81, they made another unsettling discovery. Their own corpses, in roughly the same spots they'd been inside Dimension Prime Site-81.
Yo!
Some of the Foundation's top scientists...
I'm out. If I see my own dead body, bro, I'm bucking. Yo, hell no. That's just too much.
...including the esteemed Dr. Bright, were also found dead inside the facility. In an attempt to see
Dr.
just
Bright.
how far this unexplained phenomenon stretched, Agent Roy's team decided to inspect the containment cells, where they found that all the Mirror Universe's SCPs, including SCP-2996, were dead. In his desperation to find some kind of...
2996? What SCP is that again? Let me know in the comment section below, guys, if you guys know.
Exception to the extinction event, Agent Roy revealed a terrifying secret to the rest of his team. SCP-682, the immortal misanthropic lizard, and one of the deadliest creatures known to the SCP Foundation, was contained at this very facility, right below them. Could it have something to do with what was going on here?
Let's see it.
They descended into the containment facility to discover an even more unsettling truth. SCP-682, the unkillable anomaly, floated dead in its tank. Death truly made no exceptions within SCP-2935. Agent Roy's team left the site and rendezvoused with Agent Juno's.
I guess no one's immortal with this SCP around. Like, yo, to be honest, any SCP that's immortal or whatever that can't die, obviously that's capped now because this is a thing. Yo.
Team to send their research back to Dimension Prime using automated drones. Both teams remained in the mirror dimension for another manned operation codenamed 19.
The heck?
They had no idea it would be their final mission. As they descended deeper into the facility, passing more dead SCPs, they discovered one final clue.
Y'all need to get out of there.
Based on the activity of the Foundation servers, the event occurred at roughly 3 a.m. While underground in SCP-2935 Site-81, the team accidentally activated the base's on-site nuclear weapon, a failsafe meant to be detonated in the case of an emergency containment breach. Due to the base's failsafe protocols, every member of the Manifest Destiny team was locked and sealed inside Site-81. They, along with everything else, were incinerated in the nuclear blast.
Wow.
Once again, the mirrored universe inside of SCP-2935 was lifeless. But that isn't where it ends. When the automated drones returned out of the SCP-2935 cave to the field operations in Dimension Prime, they were in for their own horrifying discovery.
What the heck?
None of the footage or information gathered from SCP-2935 illuminated how or why the extinction event occurred.
What?
Everyone and everything simply dropped dead at the exact same moment. Nobody was aware. Nobody was prepared. Death came suddenly and silently, and none were spared. All the Foundation on Dimension Prime were left with was a message from one of the agents from Manifest Destiny, Agent Keller. His final message was, "I don't have any answers. I don't think there are any. I'll do this one thing and hope that fixes it. Seal it shut." You've got to lock it in here with us. I'm sorry. The Foundation were at first confused by this until they discovered a final encrypted audio log buried in the files recovered from the Mirror Universe.
What is going on?
It was a message from Keller himself, but not the Keller from Universe Prime. In this message, Keller described the Foundation in the Mirror Universe receiving the exact same distorted transmission that they did a few days earlier from a cave in Joppa. When he and the others were dispatched inside, they discovered the same lifeless post-extinction event world that was now so familiar to the Foundation command. But there was a key difference. This wasn't the mirror dimension they'd just been studying, but a third, entirely different dimension.
What? Okay, yo. What is... Okay. Y'all can't be jumping to dimension without, like, actually, like, understanding what's going on in the first dimension. Like, yo, is this Reaper an actual, like, Reaper? Is that the SCP? Or is that just part of the animation? And two, why is this dude doing it? And, like, how did he come to be? And how many dimensions are there? Like, yo, like, there's so many questions. I know probably with this SCP, maybe in the file, they don't have the answers. That's why it's so deadly. But goddamn, is this... I'm assuming this is some kind of god entity where it can just kill legendary, immortal creatures. Like, oh my god.
In his haunting final words, Mirror Dimension Keller admits that whatever caused the event in that third dimension, an entity in that Mirror Dimension Keller believed this was the specter of death itself, and had followed him back into his world, and history had repeated itself. SCP-2935 was the passageway through which absolute death could pass from dimension to dimension, and our dimension was the next in line. The deaths of Manifest Destiny may...
That's our answer. Hold, let's rewind that so we got you here. We waited this whole episode to find this out. Yo, what?
That Mirror Dimension Keller believed this was the specter of death itself, and had followed him back into his world, and history had repeated itself. SCP-2935 was the passageway through which absolute death could pass.
Okay, 2935 was the passageway, or well, is the passageway where, you know, the Grim Reaper could pass. So I'm assuming the passageway is probably, you know, SCP-2935-1. And this one is SCP-2935-2, or vice versa. I'm assuming it's like, I'm assuming you need both for it to be the SCP, you know, you need the passageway and death.
From dimension to dimension, and our dimension was the next in line.
Oh my god.
The deaths of Manifest Destiny may have saved our entire universe, as anyone passing back through the cave had the potential to bring death itself back with them. The Foundation...
That's smart. No one... Okay, yo. I'm sorry. This is all making sense now, though.
The deaths of Manifest Destiny may have saved our entire universe, as anyone passing back through the cave had the potential to bring death itself back with them.
The
Foundation decided in the end to follow Keller's advice. They sealed the entrance to SCP-2935 with concrete, and now kept it under constant watch, since what waits behind the barrier is an entity even they have no power to stop if it ever got through.
This is death.
After all,
wow.
It had killed them all before, or at least another version of them. What's one more dimension on the pile? Why, it may now just seem like a simple slab of concrete under an abandoned cemetery. This is why SCP-2935 might be the most dangerous SCP of all.
Well, honestly, it should be. From what I've gathered so far, from what I've been reacting to, yo, it is the most dangerous one. Nothing could stop it. How? Like... I don't think there's any weakness because it's like a spiritual being from what it looks like. And it's like the embodiment of death. So, yo, that was brazy. That was brazy. And this was an awesome reaction. It was really confusing though, at least up until the end, towards like the last few minutes of the video where it all made sense. But yo, damn, I wish... I might have to watch another video explaining O-Death a little bit more because this is really, really intriguing. And I want to get more information. If you guys enjoyed this reaction though, by the way, remember smash that like button. Also smash the sub button if you want to join the family. If you're not already part of the family, mind you, and you made it this far, I don't know why you're not joining. Don't know why you don't want to be part of the awesome family on YouTube. So, you know, hit that button if you haven't already, and smash the notification bell if you haven't, so you can stay plugged with each and every upload. And unfortunately, that concludes today's episode. However, I'll catch you guys on the next one. With